Welcome everyone to day 5. It's Persuade and Profit Live. I'm John Benson. Again, as you can see down below, I'm the $1 billion copy coach because I've helped people make $1 billion or more actually from copywriting, from stuff that I teach very similar to what I'm teaching here. And I hope that you guys can really prosper from this and learn a lot about the art of persuasion and how persuasion is something that you can do with really just the power of words. And you can do it in an ethical way. You can do it I think, in the most effective way possible using some of the strategies that we're talking about here. Everyone come on and say hi. Be sure to comment if you're commenting for real, like realsy comments. And we're going to go back on Thursday. We're going to look at all the comments. We're going to take who we think is the most highly contributive commenter and award them with a $2,500 gift. And that is, they're going to be joining me on a 90-minute coaching call. There's going to be four total people. So we're going to do this for four weeks in a row. And one person each week is going to be selected. So you group of 4 are going to come on for 90 minutes with me. And we're just going to dive into all about your business, all about what we can do to increase your marketing and really, really rev up your stuff. So please do say hello. And spread this around for real. So, hey, this is good. Hey, beat up, what's going on? For real, what's happening, man? Boga's here. We're waiting for some other people to come in. Hopefully the emails went out this morning and told everybody to come on this show today. So cool. We're going to get started here in just a few minutes. This is a recap of what we're going on. Hey, Wade, what's going on? Good to see you, man. My weekend was pretty awesome. It was pretty awesome. Thanks for asking. So what we're going to be doing today is the second day of persuasion modes. Now, we talked about the persuasion mode of using visual persuasion yesterday. If you didn't see that video, it's very powerful. It's probably one of the most powerful modes of persuading, and that's using words to convey a visual impact. And people can relate to seeing things more than they can relate to hearing things. It's just the way that our brains are wired. Today, we're going to talk specifically about how your customer or prospect best hears something, and that to me is through the second mode of persuasion, which is the story mode of persuasion. So I'm going to pop that into the title here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. 1 second here. There you go. This is day 5. Story mode persuasion. I'm still learning the gimmicks to all this cool stuff here, all the cool software that I'm using. So awesome. So story mode persuasion. What is that? Well, you're going to hear it really right from the horse's mouth, so to say, today, because I'm going to share my story that I've shared literally, I probably 1,000 times by now, but it's the very first VSL story that I wrote. It's the very first video sales letter because I created video sales letters. And the story that I had in that video sales letter ended up becoming what everyone who has Accelerator, everyone who's got 3X, anything 3X related, anyone that's got VSL Fast Track, which if you don't have that, that's the least expensive product that I've ever created for creating VSLs. So for under $500, you can get the same formula that I'm using, and we dissect it down to the video. It's a lot of stuff, and it will teach you everything that you need to know. It's the most comprehensive VSL course out there. This is included in that course, but it's called the Nightmare Story. And I call it a nightmare story because it is a literal nightmare for either you or for your prospect or for a customer that you've had. So you want to tell a story that's very compelling. It's a hero's journey type of story, but it's really geared around the concept of a nightmare, like something really dark and something really scary that happened, because that's when we change the most. I mean, we all know the deathbed conversion stories. We all know that sometimes you have to go through hell to get to the point where you want to go. We've all gone through that kind of stuff. Well, you need to tell a story similar to that inside of a video sales letter, even inside email. It works. You can tell a much shortened version of the story inside of an email. But people really, really relate to stories. And this should be self-evident by the fact that we watch so much television that's geared on stories. So I don't think I have to sell the idea of stories. How you create the story, I'm going to walk through the formula today on the slides. And then I'm going to literally just go, and I'm not reading a script. I'm just going to tell the story by memory of how the story happens. And I'm going to highlight each part of the script, each part of the formula as I go, so you can see exactly how I'm doing it. So you guys, so it's sort of a rags to riches story. Bogdan, but it's less of a rags to riches story. Let me make this because it's important. Rags to riches is kind of cool, but your prospect isn't in the riches category yet. They're in the rags category, or kind of moving up the ladder, right? So it's more like the story of like, here, I wasn't always this really successful guy or girl. In fact, I used to really suck. And here's this horrible thing. Here's how I got into this. And it was really through a lot of like tragedy, a lot of stuff that went bad. And if you don't have a nightmare story, one of your customers does. And you can say, this reminds me of one of my best customers, Gina. And Gina, this is her story. Perhaps you can relate to this. And that's how you can tell the story if you don't have one. I've yet to meet someone that doesn't have a really compelling nightmare story. They just haven't thought about it. They haven't thought in terms of this. So this isn't so much you turning into riches as much as you going, I had my aha moment when I hit the lowest point in my life, or when something really monumentally bad happened to me, and it really woke me up to seeing things in a different way. And now, because of that moment, I'm seeing things in this new way, and that's what put me on the path to you today. So it's not necessarily at the end of it, you don't necessarily say, I went on to make $20 million and now I'm rich and famous. You can say that, don't get me wrong, but it's more like a rags to on the path to riches story. Let's put it that way. I want to be very cautious with how we say that, because it is so important to get this one right. It's so important to get this one right. All right, cool. So we're going to get started here. I'm going to share my slides as I do all the time. I'm going to move this over here, and hopefully I will not mess this up. Well, one second. We're having a little bit of an issue with the screen, so I'm going to do this again. I do like this software. It's just a little glitchy. BeLive is pretty cool, though. If you guys haven't used it, it's pretty cool. So I'm going to add this here, and hopefully you will see that. Awesome. I think you're seeing the right thing. If you are, awesome. If you're not, I'm sorry. Okay, the 3 modes of persuasion. Again, yesterday, visual mode. Your prospect needs to picture a visual of both the problems and the solutions you're covering. And we went through some really cool visuals yesterday. Remember the python around the waist for body fat? And remember, that one sticks out in my mind. I actually wrote that one yesterday myself. So look back on the videos. Just go to my Facebook page, and the Facebook page you're on right now should have the videos from yesterday, and just scan through that if you haven't gotten to the visual mode. Today is story mode, and this is engaging by selling and tapping into something more powerful than your words, and that's your prospect's imagination. You're going to let them picture what you went through, and then putting themselves inside your shoes. I'm going to take a sip of water while excuse me here. Something in my throat here. Okay. So that's what's going to be really cool, is tying in their imagination. So finally, there's pacing mode, which we're going to cover tomorrow. And that is some really cool NLP black belt toward their goals. I just finished a VSL yesterday that's going to air probably next week that has one of the better future pacing segments that I've written. And it's very simple, but I had to go back and rewrite the script I wrote myself, because I noticed that I wasn't using the right words. I wasn't using words that were present tense inside the future. So I'll talk about this tomorrow and why that's so important that you pace your customer. Now, there's another way of pacing your customer, by the way, which we'll also talk about. And that's matching. I'm going to cover both of those tomorrow. You want to match their words. You want to describe the problems that they're having in the words that they're using, not the words that you think that you should use. Okay, so story mode persuasion is today's topic. So prospects' imaginations are just far more powerful when it comes to anything you can say. So here's an example of that. Think how many times you've heard or said the following phrase: yeah, that movie was awesome, but the book was so much better. Just type in the comments if you've ever uttered that sentence or heard someone utter that sentence before. Why do you think the book was better? Very rarely do they say, well, the book just went into a lot more detail and all that. It's even if they say that, it's not really why it's better. It's better because their imagination saw something completely different than what the director saw in the movie, or saw something, even if it was similar, they were able to more vividly imagine things than the movie could convey. Your imagination is just infinitely more powerful than the words that somebody else can say, or even the visuals that someone else can say. So why not tap into that? And you can tap into it in a very safe way by telling your own story. Now, tomorrow we'll talk about how to tap into it in a much more aggressive way, which is future pacing and actually literally getting someone to imagine something that hasn't happened yet. That's really awesome. Okay, so telling stories that have a simple hero's journey arc. And if you don't know the hero's journey, that's a blank on the very favorite. Someone type in the guy's name. I drew a blank on hero's journey guy. Yeah. Just don't laugh at me on this recording. So Joseph Campbell. So I think it's Joseph Campbell. Yeah. Hero's journey. It makes you seem relatable. That's the key thing. So Bogdan asked with rags to riches. It's rags to on the path to riches, because you really want to sound really relatable. And if your story is even worse off than what they're going through, they can go, well, wait, if that guy can do it, I can do it. So that's kind of the secret here. So here is the formula for the nightmare story. You have the overview. That's just the when and where, the details. And then you want to say something odd that sticks out. And that's one of my own little additions to this story that wasn't even in the hero's journey story. That when you say something that's kind of a little bit weird, like a little detail, like, I noticed something really strange, X, that makes the story not only much more believable, it makes it just much more intriguing. And I'm going to do that off the top of my head, no less, as we go through this and how you were feeling. That's the overview. Then we get to the bad part. This is the setup of the story. This is like, okay, here's how all this went down. And you're kind of getting, it's kind of like not great, but it's not tragic. It's like, I was feeling bad and this was happening and I wasn't so good there, blah, 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 blah. And then you get to the really bad part. Now, this is the event where you hit rock bottom. This is the worst thing that happened to you in relation to what you're selling. Now, the worst thing that happened to you could be like, I checked my bank balance and I had $3 left. That could be the worst thing. Or it could be, in my case, when I wrote the original version of this, I didn't talk about the fact that I had a heart attack when I was in my 30s, but that would have been the rock bottom story. But in actuality, I went further back to that, where I had a much more compelling story than even what I thought was even a heart attack. So I'm fine now, by the way, but yeah, that was scary. So I actually have two, and I've actually written the heart attack story in another VSL, but today I'm going to go over the original story that I wrote. So this is the really bad part. So obviously a heart attack, you're literally, in my case, I was care flighted out of it. I was literally care flighted, which is kind of weird. Usually you're taken to a hospital in an ambulance. Well, they took me to a hospital in an ambulance, and they got there, and the hospital, there was something wrong with the cath lab, and they had to care flight me to another hospital because I wouldn't have lived, So I'm like being wheeled into a freaking helicopter with my nose. If you've ever been in a care flight helicopter, A, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And B, then you know what I'm talking about because your nose is like an inch away. I could literally feel the top of the helicopter with my nose. It was just really scary. So that makes an awesome story. That's not the one I'm going to do today. Then finally, through that whole bad part, you're going to declare independence. This is what I call the Declaration of Independence. I wrote my thesis on Thomas Jefferson, so I'm a huge fan of the Enlightenment era Americana stuff. So I naturally call this the Declaration of Independence. Kind of an important document in American history, sort of, just a little bit, right? Well, this is your own Declaration of Independence. You're declaring independence from the trap that you've fallen under. That the stuff that you're doing in the past, you're just going to like declare independence from that and declare war on it if you have to. And it's a vow that you make to change. And I'm going to, when you hear how I say this, you'll get how powerful that language can be. And then finally, that this is really your vow to change it with the world. So you make a vow to yourself. And then the moral journey is like, I'm going to turn this into, this is radically different actually than the hero's journey story. This is my own creation. It's been around since VSLs were created. Many people have used this and they've made lots of money from it. So you want to hear how this sounds in real life? I'm going to go through a shortened version of it because we are on a Facebook Live, but here's what it sounds like. I'm going to go through, and by the way, this is a true story. I remember it was September of 1998 when I was leaving my office one day with my best friend, Steve. And we were driving down the streets of Dallas, Texas. It was cold. It was sleeting. His 1978 Mustang, which I remember had this very weird leather interior that smelled like burnt coffee. I just couldn't explain why. I always wondered why he kept that. Well, that old car was just swerving on the streets of Dallas. And I was kind of afraid that we were going to die. But I felt so bad inside that it didn't really matter that much. I was in my 30s, early 30s, and already 275 pounds, a 40-inch waistline that just limped over my belt buckle, and everything I wore felt uncomfortable. In fact, I had carried around this big black jacket just to hide as much of myself as I could. I felt miserable, tired. And even though it was 2:37 in the morning, I was craving sugar, as I always was. I saw a 7-Eleven on the side of the street. I said, Steve, pull over. I got to get a fix. I was kidding with the whole get a fix thing. Steve pulled into the 7-Eleven, and out front in the 7-Eleven, there were two prostitutes, cold and shivering, sitting on the sidewalk. And I remember embarrassingly passing judgment on them as I walked in the door, thinking, what did they do to their lives to get to that position? What did they do to their lives to end up selling their bodies? I was walking through the 7-Eleven, and finally I found my target. Ding dongs. If you don't know what ding dongs are, they're like donuts, only better. Well, I realized that I left my wallet at my office, and I'm not going back in that deathmobile, especially at 2:30 in the morning. So I decided to do something I've never done before. I decided to steal my sugar fix. And it wasn't just one packet of ding dongs I stole. I stole 6. My jacket was so big and I was so fat that there was no way the guy at the counter could even tell. As I was walking out the door feeling very guilty, even though I knew I would come back and pay this person later, thinking that I may even get arrested for this, I looked again at the 2 prostitutes sitting on that sidewalk, and just, it struck me at that moment. You're no different than they are. They're selling their bodies for sex. You're selling your body for food. You just stole. You broke the law. They're breaking the law. You are morally no better than they are. Absolutely no better than they are. You should be ashamed. And I did feel ashamed. I felt so ashamed that the moment I got in that car, I said to myself, whatever I do, I have got to change this pattern of living. This isn't living at all. This is existing. This is existing. And while I may not end up selling my body on a sidewalk, I will end up killing my body well before I'm old enough to respect my future, old enough to share it with children or grandchildren. It was in that moment that I said, I vow to change. I will find a solution to this weight problem and everything that I'm doing to poison my body. And I will actually lose weight and trim down to the point where I was back when I was in college, when I was an athlete. I'm not just going to lose weight. I'm going to do it in a way that's going to be absolutely earth-shattering. I'm going to figure this out. And when I do, I said right there, I've made a vow to God. I will share this with everyone that's listening to me. Everyone that will give me an ear, I will share this secret with them, because I will figure out some way to get this done that allows me to live the lifestyle I want to live and not feel like I'm constantly deprived and on a diet all the time. And that vow is the one reason that I am here with you today, and the one reason that you're watching this video today, because I made a vow and I found the answer. It's the answer that you'll discover today by watching this video. So keep watching. Okay, that was me taking that off the top of my head. There's no script in front of me. I know this. I know it pretty well. If I read it from a script, it'd be much better. But I didn't want to read it from a script. I wanted to improvise a little bit and show you how this works. So that's the story. Notice how I went through the overview. Did you notice the weird thing that stuck out in the overview? It was the smell of the leather in his car. That's just a weird detail that makes the story that much more tangible, right? The bad part had a really cool component to it. And when I say really cool, I meant from a story angle. That's a true story, by the way. There's more to that story, actually. The stuff that I edited out, but that true story really happened, obviously. And that thought, I really did pass judgment on those 2 street prostitutes when I walked into the 7-Eleven. In my head, I was like, I wasn't like saying, oh, you're an awful person. I was just like, oh, you know, life could be so much worse. You could be them. That's what I was saying to myself. And then when I walked out, it was like, holy shit, you are them. You know, they're probably wanting, they're getting money for crack. There's no difference. Sugar, crack, it's the same thing. It's a drug. It's going to kill you. One just kills you a lot faster. So that whole wake up story for me was like, wow, that really put it into a framework that I could grasp onto and really understand. And then of course, the really bad part is when I actually sunk low enough to steal to get a sugar fix. That was a very low moment in my life. And even though I did come back the next day and pay the guy, I still felt really terrible. So anyway, that's the story. I'm going to take any questions you have about this. And yeah, I will. And by the way, if you're wanting to get the whole VSL formula that I use, I'm going to put a link inside the chat here. I'm going to pull back over so I can talk to you guys face to face. And hopefully, if you guys aren't so depressed at this point that you're like, oh, I don't want to talk to you anymore. But so cool. If you want to get that, I'm going to type this in here. It's go here. We're going to have this up for a few days. This is my fast track formula. This is the VSL fast track formula, johnbenson.com/fast track. And that will get you the VSL fast track. And this page, you can read about it and you see all about it and see what it is there. This is the same exact VSL formula that I've used for the last 8 years now, it's made over $1 billion a year. And so that's how I got the moniker, the $1 billion copy coach. And yeah, I'm very, very proud of it. This is the flagship VSL product in the world. The only difference between this and Accelerator, which is the software that I took off the market last year and now is being sold by an agency. Accelerator is software. It has the same exact video training, the same exact formula. Everything's exactly the same, except it has software that helps you go through it. It's a lot more expensive. It's it's $2,000, where this one's less than 500. So it's a lot more affordable by the masses. So anyway, so what do you guys think of that story? What do you guys think of the structure? So Miguel said, I like the story, the format. Thank you so much. Wade said that style of story really draws you in. You're totally engaged. Yeah, it's not the reason I didn't want to read something I wrote, by the way, is because if I pulled up the writing of that story, it would be flawless. Every little word would have been perfectly honed because I'm a copywriter. I wanted you to hear how someone this is how I would think through the story without having any notes in front of me. And there was plenty of mistakes and there's plenty of those kind of things. That's okay. And the story was still compelling. The story still really drew you in. So you don't have to be this kick-ass writer to be able to create a story like that. You just need to follow that formula, and that formula is yours forever now. So Terry said, so here's what's interesting, Terry, you said, I could smell the burnt coffee. That wasn't the weird thing. I just made that up on the spot because I couldn't remember what the weird thing was. And I remember what the weird thing is now. He had this thing hanging from his, what do they call those things? They're not like dingle ball dice. It was something silly like that. This is back in like, say it was 1997, I think. But he had something that was hanging from his rearview mirror. It was just banging against because the car was sliding. It was banging against the thing. It was just annoying me. But his leather did smell really weird. But anyway, so that came up. So yeah, great structure. Thanks, man. Terry said I can feel your emotions all the way through here. Oh yeah, sorry, Drew. Drew, if you just got here, you'll have to watch this video again. So you just missed the story. Yeah, that's really, really cool. So so Angela, thanks for commenting. The most impressive, how simple and direct your communications are. Thank you. Thank you. So I do want to address something that that I've never seen anyone come up with a compelling story called Big Lie, close with more embedded NLP. Thank you. Yeah, so this is interesting, Angela, that in that I was just reading off the top. I wasn't reading anything. I was just pulling off the top of my head. So if there's NLP in there, it's because, as my ex-wife used to say, you speak in NLP. It wasn't an insult. She would always ask me, she goes, did you NLP me to marry me? Because it's like, she was like pretty hot. So it probably had to. I said, no, but I NLP'd you afterwards. I would never NLP somebody to marry them. But yeah, I probably speak in NLP because it's a great way to communicate to people. It's a very powerful way to communicate to people. It's not for anything nefarious. I realize, by the way, people have asked me throughout the years, it's like, do you know about like Ross Jeffries and these guys that use NLP for really hideously stupid and just, I'm going to get on a virtue signaling high horse here, but yeah, just really pathetic reasons to use NLP to, pick up women or to manipulate business partners. And I've never done that. Never would do that. It's just a ridiculous thing to do. But so take what I'm giving you training wise and use it for ethical reasons. Sell hard. I'm good with selling hard. I'm a, dyed-in-the-wool capitalist, but so as long as you're selling a good product, that's the key. As long as you're selling something that really changes people's lives and really works, sell the shit out of that stuff, man. I mean, just go off on it, man. Really go hard. Just go hard. Just don't do anything unethical, please. That's the thing. That's the caveat. I think all my stuff should come with a warning. Warning, this stuff can really be used to persuade people to do bad stuff. Don't do that. So, Bogan says, I almost know it by heart. I listened to it. Yeah. That story. It's kind of weird because I'm divorced from it because it's been so long. But when I read it from the script that I originally wrote, I can actually get really teary-eyed and actually, get kind of affected by it. When I read the story of my heart attack, I get, my heart rate goes up. I'm checking my pulse sometimes because it's that terrifying. I don't know if you guys have ever had a heart attack or not, but especially at such a young age. I mean, most people don't have heart attacks in their 30s, but I had really crap genes and didn't do myself any favors by eating like shit and smoking 2 cigars a day and doing really stupid stuff that self-destructive 30-year-olds do. And, fortunately, turned my whole life around. And that's what led me, by the way, to you guys. I mean, I started because I turned my whole life around, wrote Fit Over 40 and became known in the fitness world. And I just turned 55 last week. So it's been almost 10 days ago, I guess. But anyway, so yeah, so I'm alive. Heart's all good. So cool. So let's get some questions here. So Bokan says, John, what would be a reason if the offer has a compelling story yet it doesn't perform that good? Well, the offer could have the most kick-ass story in the world, and if your first minute isn't down, which is why the VSL Fast Track is so handy. Any VSL training that I do is handy, but that one's really handy because it's less expensive. But that first minute's got to be just right on, and specifically the first 10 seconds. I mean, I've looked at offers that just didn't convert, and the product was great, the story was great, and they just didn't have a hook. They came in like with the same kind of blah blocks in my staff, and no one knew. I had to look it up. So anyone gets the blah blah ginger reference, type it in the chat or the comments, because you're not going to win anything. You're just going to be awesomely cool. So I use that to reference copy that's just kind of blah. that says stuff but really doesn't say anything. Do you remember that old Cheers episode when Kelsey Grammer, when they had this guy that would come into the bar and he would say all the stuff and it was just word salad. It's like Deepak Chopra kind of stuff. It's like word salad. It doesn't mean anything. And sorry for all the Deepak bits. But there's actually a Deepak Chopra word generator online. Just look it up. It's hilarious. You can type in something and it will spit it back in Deepak. And Kelsey Grammer just kept saying, but he didn't say anything. So it's true because the guy literally didn't say anything. And that's kind of the way a lot of bad intros are for VSLs. They're saying like, I read a copy from one of the guys that used to work for me, and I read it. It was like, well, that didn't tell me anything. The headline was like an amazing new way to lose weight without sacrificing your favorite foods. Well, first of all, we've heard that before, but what does amazing mean? Amazing means nothing. Now, I realize if you can say, look, I've had amazing results with this and use it kind of in passing, but amazing is such a trite word where, I've had life-altering results from this. I've had earth-shattering results. And I can think of 20 things off the top of my mind that are much better than amazing. So if you're looking at your first minute of your VSL or any persuasive tool, whether it's sales page, whatever, and it's not really compelling, if it sounds like stuff you've heard before, it won't work. It just won't work. And that's why pattern interrupts work really well, because you've never heard it before. My friend Wes Virgin, he's still got a killer offer, Fat Decimator, I believe it is. And he's a Accelerator customer, went through Accelerator, and he's got the typical John Benson style pattern interrupt. It's like, here I am, he's shooting at a rifle. He's shooting at it's a terrible story, by the way. It's like, when I say terrible, meaning it's an awful situation. He was in the military, and he had his rifle pointed at a child in Afghanistan. And he's like, dude, couldn't pull the trigger, for obvious reasons. But that story is like, well, you've never heard that story. And then what does this have to do with weight loss? Well, that was the beautiful genius of that pattern interrupt, is he walked right into weight loss after that. So that's pretty cool. So hopefully that helps. Good, cool. Does the word detail act as a pattern? Yes, it does. It is a pattern interrupt. It also puts you, so we talked a little bit about this yesterday, auditory versus kinesthetic. These are different modes of how people process data. So when I talk about smell, that's so unusual. If you think about what it means to be sensual, and I don't mean sensual in the sexual meaning, but sensual meaning that you're appealing to, taste, touch, smell. Very few people talk about smell in copy. And I want to have your copy should have all of it in there. It should be tactile. You should be talking about like how does it feel to you when you touch yourself right now and you touch your belly right now? How does that feel? I've used that line so many times in copy. Go ahead and put your hand on your tummy. How does it feel? Does it feel the way you want it to? Well, that's completely over the top tactile, right? It's hard to do that, by the way, on financial offers. But I saw one guy did it by saying, right now, I want you to go grab your wallet, either out of your purse, out of your back pocket, and I want you to feel it. Is it stuffed full of cash, or is it pretty thin? Now it's not the perfect tactile one, but it's pretty good. But very few people use smell. So the irony is that I didn't use smell in the original VSL. I used it here. Maybe I should change it. So, okay, cool. Okay, so Randall says there's a link that says VSL Fast Track, but it says I have to have boardroom. Can you reach out to Leanne about that? Let me type Leanne's address in here. I don't know if Leanne, if you're on or not. If you are on, you can take care of this one here, but I will type this into the, if I can figure out where to do it. Give me a second, guys. Okay. Just typing in Leanne's address here. So just email Leanne right here, and she'll take care of that, Randall. So cool, thanks. All right, cool. Yeah. Drew, amazing equals earth shatteringly try. That's good, man. That's really good. Yes, it's accelerator. It's basically, yeah, it is. It's the backbone accelerator. It's the VSL Fast Track is just the accelerator. I just refuse to ever. I sold it for like 2 times in my career for for $9.97, and I was like, the only way I'm doing this is because it's a big promo. It's sold for the vast majority of time for $3,000, $29.97. And then we took it down to $19.97 to see, we were just testing prices. And we took some bonuses out of that because $29.97 had to be where that's an expensive product for a reason. And I knew there was a lot of folks that wanted to ride a VSL and they didn't need to have the bells and whistles necessarily of software, even though it's really cool. And they didn't have to have all the bonuses. They just wanted the guts of it. And so that's what we did. We started selling the guts of it. So that's what we're doing that. So, so I hope that okay. So this is something I want to touch a bit based on this, and then we'll call it a coaching day. Cause I can go on for hours here, guys. I really appreciate you guys hanging in there. Angela said, I need would be unethical. In fact, my first rendition of my book title is The Coach Hoax because I'm so sick of unethical shoot from the hip. Okay, so I'm not sure what you mean by I need would be unethical. Do you mean the phrase I need, or was that a typo? I'm curious what would be unethical. Like are you saying that? Because I know your story. So I think if it's the story that I'm thinking about, is that what you're talking about? So I just want to make sure, because I'd like to answer that question to make sure, because you can tell a story. There was obviously nothing in my story that was remotely unethical. If there is something that you're saying that, wait, I couldn't tell my story because it would be unethical, then you might have to alter some things inside of it that would make it parallel. I'm going to mispronounce this first name, Naima. If I got that right, let me know, because I deserve a brownie. Would you use the story in emails or just videos? I use a shortened version of the story in emails. In fact, I could say, like, I'm going to tell you, go watch this video right now, because I'm going to tell us a weird story about my friend Steve and I, and how we, and how 2 prostitutes changed my life. So you can just imagine, I remember that email from when this first came out, like 2 prostitutes completely changed my life. And believe it or not, they helped me lose weight. So it's just like, what the hell are you talking about? Well, that's true. That's totally true. So when they watch the video, just to get to that point. So yeah, I use it like with a tease. So cool. So I'm going to look up here, make sure that Angela's cool, because I want to take care of her. Angela, if there's an issue with that I can answer to, okay. I would never be unethical. Yes, that's correct. Yes. Yeah. Gotcha. Want to make sure. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, and I know your story, so I know that you would never be unethical. But most folks here that are watching, that at least are part of my posse, I don't attract unethical people. I rarely have ever had that happen. So, but we're trying to reach a ton of people on Facebook with this stuff. And obviously it's a promotional thing, but it's also like I'm giving away tons and tons and tons of stuff over the next 30 days. It's actually 25 days now. So please share this with friends if you don't mind. Invite friends to come at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time tomorrow. We're going to talk about tomorrow future pacing and how to there's present and future pace. We're going to do both. Present pacing is just speaking in their language. Future pacing is taking that language and taking it into the future. We will talk about that tomorrow because it is really fun stuff. So you guys, thank you so much for hanging out. Another long broadcast. I appreciate it. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.